Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the industrial session, textile sector of the EU-Korea Ecodesign Cooperation Forum. I am Sandra Meignet-Kang, Creative Director of SMK Dancewear, a brand that I created over 10 years ago in Seoul to explore how movement, comfort, and eco-conscious design can come together. In my work, I've been working with both Korean and European textiles innovators, from everything like recycled material to natural performances fiber. And this year, textile was chosen as one of the main topics of the forum, alongside battery, electronics, and policy. And indeed, textile is everywhere, from what we wear, from our home, transportation. So there is seriously emergency to do something. According to the UN, textiles are responsible of 10% of global carbon emissions, 20% of industrial wastewaters, and around 92 million tons of waste each year, yet only 1% is recycled into new garments. So making this sector more sustainable and circular is absolutely essential. Today we're going to have 4 presentations, 2 from Korea, 2 from Europe, and after that we'll move into the panel discussion. Each speaker will be asked a question based on their presentation, and then we ask them a shared question, and finally we'll move on to a few questions from the audience. So if something sparks your mind, please stay with us. We're going to be asking few questions during the panel discussion. Let me now briefly introduce our speaker of today. So we have Mr. Mauro Scalia, Director of Sustainable Businesses at Euratex, with expertise in EU-wide policy and the digital product passport. We have Mrs. Paola Fontel, CEO of Etika Ltd in Finland, focused on circular economy strategy and Nordic best practices. We have Mr. Jae-hoon Jung, Senior Advisor at the Korea Federation of Textile Industries, who acts as a key link between government and manufacturer. And we have Mr. Jong-in Choi, Team Leader at Hyoseong TNC, directly involved in the development of sustainable fiber innovation. By bringing together people from policy, strategy, and manufacturing, we can start finding real hands-on solutions for the textile industry. Just a quick note before we begin, each speaker has 20 minutes for their presentation, and there's a timer set up on the table. So I'm gonna set up the timer, and I don't know the sound it is when time is up, so let's try not to figure out together. Thank you again for joining us, and let's get started. So we're gonna move on to our first presentation of the day. I'd like to invite Mr. Mauro Scalia, Director of Euratex, the European Apparel and Textile Confederation, to come on stage. You can applaud, you can applaud. So today, he'll be speaking on the topic, the European Union legislation transforming the textile value chain, perspectives and outlook of the European industry. So for now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Mauro Scalia. Is it working?
Thank you. Yes.
Good.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very big pleasure for me to be here. It's a honor. We had yesterday a great discussion in the first day, and I hope to share with you some interesting information. Do find me after my presentation if you want to go down with any topic that I present. Don't hesitate, please.
Is it working?
I have to point somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, so what is Euratex? We are the European Industry Confederation for Textile and Apparel. My job is to speak every day with the European industry and with the European policymakers to make policy and legislation on sustainability. Basically to address all the problems that Sandra has mentioned at the beginning about the social and environmental impact of textiles. What we represent is 200,000 companies in the European Union, 1.3 million workers, and more than 170 billion. It's a big industry. as Europe makes the second largest exporter for textile and apparel product after China. We don't do this alone because I am Italian, but I live in Brussels, and we represent all the European industry. You see here the members of Eurotex, the National Association, and also some companies. You might know Hugo Boss, Zara, for instance. The majority of members are association at national level. I was saying the second largest exporter of textile and apparel product after China. You see here some figures. It's about 280 billion. This includes intra-EU trade, like between France and Italy, for instance. But that's in total the volumes. We also have Korea, South Korea, Republic of, in this picture, of course, right before Hong Kong, Cambodia, and so on, with 10 billions of exchanges. Now, the EU-Korea trade is very significant. And interestingly, it has even doubled after the COVID time, reaching from 1 to 2 billion of export from EU to Korea, and is now a bit decreasing in line with general negative trends from the market all over the world. Limited demand and other issues. This is what I would like to talk to you about. But please don't be scared. I'm not going to talk about all the 16 pieces of legislation, but my message here is that there are so many pieces of new legislation that are being made in Europe to change everything about textiles. And I'm going to focus on the most important one. Also, what I would like to say is that there is an interesting time in Brussels where sustainability remains a priority, but competitiveness is the new priority as well of this European Commission led by Ursula von der Leyen, which started last year. So the goal is to become more sustainable, but also more profitable. Because as a matter of fact, there are too many difficulties for the business right now. High energy prices, geopolitical instability, changes in the demand, structural problems. All of that have to be addressed at the same time as we continue our goals on sustainability. And that's the message from our president says we want rules to do more sustainable, and we want everybody to comply with those rules, what we call level playing field. So this is the first piece of legislation I would like to talk about. It's called the Ecodesign regulation. Some of you might have heard about it. Now, legally speaking, started entering into force July last year. We say, get ready, like you're running. You're not going to run a sprint, you're going to run a marathon. Because even though it started in July, nothing has happened yet. But we will see a lot of changes in the coming years. That's why I say it's a marathon. It's a long, but slower but long run. So what we have now happening in this legislation is that the brands will be obliged soon to report about garments that they don't sell and they discard. It's going to become mandatory in the next few months. And this is to contain the phenomena of overproduction. So the lawmakers want to contain excessive production business models. The biggest change will be as of 2028. Any brands, European, Korean, Chinese, or whatever, that wish to sell garments in the EU must comply, after this date, with performance and information requirements. And this is going to be groundbreaking. Because today, you can sell a very poor quality product in Europe as long as you don't put toxic chemicals. But tomorrow, you cannot sell a product if, for instance, the color wash away after 2 cycles, 2 washing machine cycles. It's just an example, but that's the spirit of this law. It's increased quality. And this is a big exercise. It requires a preparatory technical work, which started already in 2023, and it will not be completed until 2026. So when you make this kind of legislation, you need to study the value chain. They ask us many technical questions, and they will also make an impact assessment. So before they make the law, they will check what is the impact of this legislation in the European and world market. This is how the legislation is made. I'm just going to give you examples. There are studies made, which takes a lot of time. We're now halfway. It's called second milestone out of 4. The point is that periodically, the industry is being asked, what do you guys think about that? What are your concerns? What are your interests? What are your best practices for sustainability? And these are the kind of inputs we suggest, we recommend. We, for instance, ask about physical durability. So we want to make it mandatory to have higher durability of product so that a garment, for instance, does not disintegrate after 2 or 3 uses, or is not using very cheap, poor quality fabrics, for instance. We want to facilitate reusability, also with better information how to take care of garments. And we're very much interested in recycled content, because recycling, we heard yesterday a lot, it's a way to reduce the footprint, to use the same resources more and more. It's a very difficult one, but we try to find a way how to encourage the use of recycled material into new garments. It's also important on chemicals, substance of concern. We want to use the same chemicals already regulated under REACH, the main legislation, and we want to have more information on those chemicals. The digital product passport, it's one of the most debated topics. And to be honest with you, I was very surprised how much this topic is so relevant in Korea. For battery, for textiles, for other sectors. We heard so much about that yesterday. So what I would like to highlight in these few minutes is that the important condition to have a digital product passport made by the brands is to have information for the value chain. A brand, doesn't matter how powerful or rich it is, needs to have data all the way from their suppliers, including SME, also in Korea maybe, or all over the world. So this will require standardization and interoperability, which is a very bad word, which means you can exchange information using the same software that you have in your company, basically. Big question we are discussing, what to do with this information. How to ensure business confidentiality. We want to be transparent, but we don't want to give all the trade secrets. So we need to find compromises. And very important, the custom authority will have to have access to this information to check if a product is compliant or not. So consultations are happening on this point. One thing I guess it's interesting is that when the European Commission make this work, they openly ask questions to everybody. You can reply as companies, as industry association, even as citizens, even if you are 11 hours flying time away from Brussels, but more than that. So these are examples. So there are these, what they call public consultation. You will see the link where you can go and you can answer or reply some questions. Sometimes it's very technical, sometimes even boring, but it gives you the chance to express your point of view. And as a matter of fact, Euratex also work with COFOTI, which is the Korean Textile Industry Association, which is here represented by at least 3 colleagues. We've been working with COFOTI for many, many years. We signed a memorandum of understanding back in 2009. That's Korean, you understand better than me. I don't know what is written in there, but I do know that in 2009 we did sign a memorandum of understanding, and perhaps we're going to work even more in the future on DPP, another topic. Still on product information. Yesterday we heard a lot about the carbon footprint. Now this is a very tricky topic. One of the information that consumers and business want to exchange on garments is what is the footprint of this product. In Europe, we have completed something called the Product Environmental Footprint Methodology, PEF or PEF. And you see here some link, bottom left, which explain to you all about this work. It took us 5 years, tremendously amount of time. In Korean, you have a beautiful word called bali bali, I think, which means quick, quick. This was not bali bali, not at all. And to make things even more complicated, some other member state, France in this case, made a similar methodology, which entered a bit into conflict. So what will happen is that in the next 2 years, this methodology will be improved. Will also probably align with the French experience, which is already legally and voluntarily available, to have one single methodology to measure the footprint of garments. This is absolutely important because if we have one methodology, then we consumer can compare any product, no matter who makes it, and we can even trust better the businesses, the brands, that they will not choose indicators more favorable for their production and maybe turn a blind eye on something they're not comfortable with. And will actually even help them not to be threatened by legal action. Happened, for instance, in Germany. Adidas, in April, was questioned by the Court of Justice in Germany because their claim on sustainability were not suitable according to the law. Now, if you have one methodology, not only you simplify the life of consumers, but also the one of the business. So that's why we want to have this. Waste. In Europe, we produce 7.5 million tons of textile waste every year. We expect this to become 9 million by 2030. Big question is what we do with this. We do not have an answer yet. So there is this legislation called Waste Framework Directive, which should enter into force in October, which will create an extended producer responsibility scheme, EPR. What that makes, it makes obliges or give the chance to brands to pay a small fee, a few cents per garment, and with this money, you organize the collection, the sorting, you can even subsidize the higher cost of recycling. This is going to be introduced over the next 30 months, so until April 26. In every EU member state, there will be a scheme to collect money from the brands and to use this money again via this PR organization that will be created in every member state to, again, finance and find the answer to the question, what do we do with 7 million tons of textile waste every year? Chemicals. We have a legislation called REACH in the EU, which is, they say, one of the most comprehensive legislation on chemicals around the world. It has been almost equaled in Japan. I understand also in Korea there is a lot of matching between this legislation and the Korean one, but I don't know the details. And two things we're going to see in this area. One is the ban on PFAS chemicals, which are actually very harmful. They're called the forever chemicals. They're used in every sector, and they have also contaminated some areas, especially when it comes to the use of fire extinguishing foams. But they will also be banned in garments. As a matter of fact, we don't use PFAS in garments. Anything we wear does not have PFAS, because there is no reason to put PFAS. But special products like firefighters' uniforms or bulletproof vests need these chemicals. So what industry like us we do when there are these consultations is to explain when some uses are critical and need to be preserved, like in military or technical textile application, and we have no problems in removing PFAS, legally speaking, from any garments. REACH will also be revised, updated towards the end of this year. So in case there are some chemical experts in the room, you might be interested to see how this legislation is going to change in the next few months. Due diligence, it's about not the product, but the organization. So until now, I spoke about product requirements, information requirements. This is about how the company operates, how the company look at the risk in the value chain, mitigate, anticipate, or remediate to those risks. Due diligence is a big thing all over the world. There are legislations across the States, Europe, Australia. I'm not familiar with the situation in Korea, but I'm sure there must be some sort of provision also here. What is interesting is that now we had 3 pieces of legislation which are obliging companies to look at the value chain and even publicly report on what they do. I will not enter in details, mindful of time, but again, if there is any question, please do find me after the presentation we can gladly talk about these or any other aspects. And the last point on legislation is about market surveillance. This is a rare picture of the European Commission boss, Ursula von der Leyen, which clearly say that there are some brands which do not comply with the rules. And she even mentioned 2 brands from the neighboring country of China to say, for example. Now, the reason why I show this picture is because normally they don't do this. They don't put the finger at one company or the other. And let me be clear, this does not want to stigmatize any company whatsoever. It could be this or other companies. The message is that the importance of ensuring market surveillance is now a priority in Brussels. So making rules, but also make sure everyone can comply with. And there will be new strategies for this. So when it comes to legislation, I have exhausted my quick overview of some of the 16 pieces of legislation. I hope I have confused you enough until now. And before I conclude, I want to spend my last 2 minutes in mentioning 2 special initiatives that we launched as EURETEX. One is about market surveillance. We worked on this 3 years ago with our members. We make an analysis how market surveillance works in Europe. We spoke to the authorities in Germany, in Lithuania, in Italy, and asked them, how is your work? How do you actually check that this jacket does not contain toxic chemicals? And it's a very difficult job, because in some countries they have maybe 2 experts for thousands of containers which comes to the country every day. It's impossible, as a matter of fact. So we made some recommendations to see which chemicals you should check in which product. But what is important is that we help the authorities to find the capacity to make market surveillance. Otherwise, we will make rules that the compliant businesses will respect, and the non-compliant businesses will ditch without any chance to be caught. The second and last initiative that I would like to quote, it's rehabs. I think this is quite interesting. It's an initiative that we launched 5 years ago, and we published a report with McKinsey Consulting Company in April 2025, July 14th. I remember the day because it's public holidays in France. What this report explains is the business case of recycling textiles. Essentially, it says you can make up to 5.5 billion euro profit every single year with the saving of energy, saving of chemicals, saving of materials, and creation of new jobs. So it demonstrates, according to our research, what is the value of recycling. It explained that you need to build 250 new facilities in Europe, which involves collection, sorting, preparation for recycling, and actual recycling. And this is growing, even in time of difficult economic conditions. Now it's a private organization. It has 20 members from the chemical side, and it's open even to Korean companies. And it's even maybe an inspiration for other companies. That was my last message. And we now can dance, apparently. I wanted to conclude with these 2 sentences as a key takeaway. Everything is changing about textiles are made, chosen, and disposed of. And it is so complex and so big that we need to work together. I know it's a buzzword, so I say we can't do this alone, which is the same word used yesterday, but I wrote the slide before. So I think there is full agreement. Thank you very much, and please, let's speak later if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalia, for that very clear and informative presentation. He's given us a very good overview about how the EU legislation are changing and what it means for the textile industry. One more round of applause for Mr. Scalia. I just would like to mention quickly, if you have a minute, please fill out our feedback survey. There is a QR code close to the headsets, and it would really matter to us. And for those joining us online, also you can watch the whole session live streamed on the official YouTube channel of the KNCPC. Now we're going to move to our next presentation, and I'm going to ask Mr. Chae Hoon-jung, Senior Researcher at the Korea Federation of Textile Industry, to come on stage. Today, Mr. Chae Hoon-jung will be speaking about the response to the EU ESPR and transition to a sustainable circular economy in the textile industry, progress and challenges of the SCT Forum. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Jung.
네, 반갑습니다.
So hello everyone. My name is Chung Jae-hoon and I came from Co-40. So it would be okay for me to do my presentation in Korean, right? So the previous presentation was the one from Eurotex. He talked about a lot of different aspects, but I'm glad that I brought some different topics. So other than promoting the circular economy, there were other acts on bills. I can't remember the other one. Anyway, the total 3 bills under the Ministry of Environment has passed the National Assembly, and we deal with those relevant issues. As such, recently, we are moving on the same direction with the EU when it comes to textiles and fashion. It's becoming a very debated topic these days. And along with this trend in Korea Federation of Textile Industry, we are organizing SCT Forum. So what I'll be talking about today is not only about Korea Federation of Textile Industry, but also I'll be talking about domestic textile industry trends, and third, sustainability and circularity in textile forum. So let me introduce about our organization, Korea Federation of Textile Industry. We were established back in 1975. So we wanted to contribute to the national economy, promote exports, and promote modernization of the textile industry. So once again, we were founded back in 1975. And regarding our organization, we have total 3 different divisions. The first one, Strategy Planning Division. Second, Industry Innovation Division, which is promoting the industry. And third, International Trade and Marketing Division. And we have total 60 personnel. And we are comprised of total 31 member organizations. It's like an association. So a lot of people ask us questions whether we have members from the private sector companies, but not actually so. So within the textile and fashion industry, we have a lot of different organizations distributed. And especially when it comes to textile, we have upstream, middle stream, and downstream. So as you can see on the slide, we have middle stream, downstream, research center. So it's like an association, I would say. So of course, we put a lot of effort to deal with the ongoing issues and try to make investments to future issues. And one of the hot topic would be AI. How AI will be approaching to textile industry. The next one would be a lot of changes in supply chain and how we are going to reorganize cooperative systems. And the last one would be how to educate and train our personnel and promote talents. And lastly, it's about R&D. We are also engaged in R&D planning. So when it comes to R&D, I'll try to move on to further details later on. So as you can see, when it comes to textile industry, we have upstream, middle stream, and downstream. When it comes to upstream, you can find quite a lot of chemical and textile companies, the very big companies. And when it comes to middle stream, we mostly have fabric production, post-treatment, dyeing, and finishing companies. So that's taking the biggest proportion, I believe, one of the biggest proportions since the number is 45.3%. Lastly, the downstream, it's mostly about apparel and fashion. So based on 2023, our export reached 10 trillion, and we have total 53,000 companies, and we have an employment of 240,000 people. Production reaches about $40.3 billion, and added value would be $17.4 billion US dollars. So it's a very big industry. It used to be even bigger. It's gradually becoming smaller, but still, it's still a very big industry. So let me give you a brief information about domestic textile industry. We will focus more on export rather than import. And in order to create more value added, we also focus on other industries rather than only focus on fashions. Also in Korea, among the companies which have chemical basis, we have quite a lot of companies. One of them would be Hyoseong TNC that will be doing presentation later on. So they are marking like #1 in the global market in Korea. So just wanted to remind you about that part. And I believe this is one of the weaknesses that we should improve. We have quite a lot of brands tapping into the overseas market. So those are how the industry is divided, as you can see. So currently, we're at the 4th generation. So we've been always talking about circularity and sustainability, and that is why we are currently at the 4th generation. So actually, the 1st generation started off from UK, starting from the industrialization. And when it comes to the 2nd generation, we had innovation in material and processing technologies. So a lot of companies achieved growth back then, starting from 1884. And moving on to the 3rd generation, we had global scale production and consumption. So this was a period that we enjoyed our prime days. And now we are currently on the 4th generation. I don't know what will happen in the future, but when it comes to the environmental issues under circular economy, once we resolve all those environmental issues, maybe we will be able to move on to the 5th generation. So in Korea, we have the Ministry of Environment, and their perspective on textile, well, they thought that they did not have a lot of issues from their perspective. Well, in Europe, not only within Europe, but they mostly import from overseas and sell in European market. However, most of the production were being done in countries outside of Europe, including Asia, and then being supplied to Europe. So the waste issue or textile issue, the Ministry of Environment thinks that it's not an within issue, internal issue, but something like an external issue. But recently, a lot of environmental agencies are raising a lot of environmental issues. Well, I think the number is only about like 2% according to the estimation. So up till now, we did not have any major issues. However, recently, we are having like landslide or incineration issues for textile and fashion industry, and a lot of ministries are becoming very sensitive to these issues. So they are all based on numbers and statistics, so I kindly recommend you to take a look at the numbers in detail. So when it comes to microplastics, or waste in ocean, they can be very serious. So for example, banning throwing away the left out inventories, or making the digital product passport starting from 2027. Well, people say that it's going to come into effect starting from 2027. We also have one personnel from Eurotex, but also, personally, I'm not exactly sure whether we will be able to take that into effect starting from 2027. We are making a lot of inquiries, investigations, but I think we still have quite a lot of systematic issues and interest issues. So let's wait and see whether it comes to effect starting from 2027, or we can ask our personnel from Eurotex later on. Well, a lot of global brands, they started having the fashion pack starting from 2019 in order to promote eco-friendliness in the industry, try to reduce waste. So they are gradually recommending the material, eco-friendly material. That can work as not only an opportunity, but also as a risk factor for Korean textile industry. So if you take a look at a lot of recent investigation, except a very small number of large conglomerates in Korea, I don't think a lot of companies are making a lot of effort for promoting sustainability up till now. They have their own issues. So I think they're trying to promote it on a gradual basis. So it's not an easy issue. Some people say that we just have to go for it. Some people say that it's something inevitable. So also from our organization, we're carrying out a lot of effort, and we are conducting a lot of relevant projects at the same time. So when it comes to circularity in Textile Forum, yes, we have quite a lot of issues ahead of us. It's not like that we have given quite a lot of thought starting from 10 years ago, like what they did in Europe. Well, yes, 빨리빨리 is the word that describes Korea very well. However, this is a point that we need to adopt 빨리빨리 attitude, the fast attitude when it comes to promoting sustainability and circularity. So I know the numbers have been disclosed, but they're only based on estimation. So based on 2023, approximately 660,066 ton was the number for clothing production. And textile waste, based on 2023, was 630,000 ton. So that's almost like one-on-one when it comes to production and waste. And what about recyclability? So 160,000 ton is being recycled according to the numbers from the Ministry of Environment. I think we can increase that number if we put more effort. So that was the amount of recyclability for 2023. And also when it comes to incineration or landfill, they always incur cost. And we also have a policy called EPR. It's not effectuated yet, but currently we're making preparations for it. So before adopting EPR, how should Korea utilize it and come up with smooth policies? That's what it's about. So I know we have a lot of statistics and numbers when it comes to textiles. However, even the Ministry of Environment is not saying that the numbers are accurate enough. We have quite a lot of numbers missing. They're not very sophisticated enough at this moment. That is a stance from the government as well. So the Ministry of Environment is conducting a lot of projects to come up with reports at the moment. And when it comes to the skill or technology for recycling, we don't have a lot of companies to cover them. So other than mechanical recyclability, well, maybe we have commercial chemical recycling, but it's not finalized yet. And we also have an imbalance between the demand and supply due to price issues. So we need to try better. We need to really do better. And also, we have some market issues. How are we going to divert the waste and try to utilize it? So yes, there may be some people with those demands, probably the textile chemical companies. But with the current system, we don't have a clear definition when it comes to waste. Some say that should be categorized as waste. Some say it's not. So that is why there's quite a lot of imbalance between demand and price. So we had quite a lot of discussions in our SCT forum, but we still have quite a lot of conflicts when it comes to those discussions or disalignments. And that is why I think we still need to have a better and deeper understanding when it comes to the issues. And moving on to feedstock, well, the materials or resources that should be recycled. Let's say there's one company. So let's say the amount of production is 70,000, and if there are like 3 to 4 companies, it would mean numerous amounts of feedstock being supplied. So as of 2023, we had 160,000 feedstock. So we have to make sure to come up with any systems of infrastructure so that we can have higher impurity level of feedstock every year. So we need to put more support in that area. So yes, we have a lot of areas to work on for the textile industry. And when it comes to the vision of SCT Forum, yes, we have companies included, government, and federation or associations like us. So we need to have smooth integration of all these different stakeholders. So under that goal, we opened the SCT Forum. The mission was very clear. How can we promote sustainability and circularity and move on to the fourth generation in this area. That was a goal. So we had total 4 different committees: policy reform, circular ecosystem, and third, carbon neutrality, and fourth, eco-design. So we had total 4 different divisions. So I see some typos there. So it was exactly 9th of December of 2023 that we had an opening ceremony for the SCT Forum. And we had been operating the forum for the past 1 year. And a lot of issues happened meanwhile.
현재 저희 그 SCT 포럼을 하면서
So while conducting SCT Forum, we had total 2 different projects. So I know fiber to fiber is one of the topics Cho-sung will be talking about later on. But anyway, we wanted to make sure to be able to do chemical recycling. So the government took the lead in creating that project, and the next one we wanted to come up with high purity resources for fiber to fiber. So the period will be from 2026 till 2030. So those are some of the R&D projects that we are working on. So I'm sorry that I'm behind the timetable. So when it comes to SCT Forum in 2025, our goal is to make it more mature. And as our next version, we want to think about how to create more values in the society and how we can promote cooperation with overseas to promote sustainability and circularity in Textile Forum. And we want to move on to sustainability and circularity and ecosystem faster. And those are the areas that we would like to put more effort. So thank you very much.
Very informative and clear presentation. I would like just to remind, if you have a minute, please fill out the QR code for our feedback survey. It's really actually matters to us. And for those joining us online, we're actually live stream on the official YouTube channel of the KNCPC. Well, we're going to move on to our next presentation, and we're going to welcome Mrs. Paula Fontel, CEO of Ethica. And the presentation is titled The Nordic Ecodesign Program. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Fontel with a warm round of applause.
Okay, just testing. I guess this works. Yes. So, first of all, thank you very much for all the organizers for the possibility to be here today. I'm very honored for this possibility. So, what I'm here to talk about today is the Nordic Circular Design Program. And that has been originally a governmental initiative to engage businesses and companies in the circular transition. So we will be looking at this topic also from the kind of policy perspective, but also from the company and business perspective. Just briefly, a couple of words about Ethica. We are a Finland-based circular economy consultancy. We have been working with circular design, eco-design, and circular business model development for 12 years now. We primarily work in the Nordics and in Finland, but have recently been forming collaborations in countries like Turkey, India, and now happy to be here in Korea. And this is our mission, so we really exist to help companies and other organizations in this circular transition. Okay. Oops, that was wrong direction. Right. And briefly about our services for individual companies, but these are also actually the topics that we cover in the Nordic Circular Design Program. So essentially, circular capacity building, like we have heard now during these 2 days here, that eco-design and circular economy is still quite a new topic for companies here in Korea, and it is also quite a new topic for companies in EU and Europe as well. Then we help businesses in integrating this circular economy thinking into their business strategies, because this is a huge market transition, as we have heard in many presentations already. It is very important for the company management to really understand that how is the business environment changing, and what should they be prepared for, and what kind of targets should they set for their own companies. And circular product design is essentially eco-design at product level and about complying to these new eco-design regulations coming from the EU, as well as what is developed in other regions as well. Circular value chains, or circular ecosystems, we also heard in the previous presentation, and this value chain collaboration and building those ecosystems and ensuring that at a system level we can, for example, take care of the textile waste problem that we have and establish those recycling systems. That is one part of our services and also the program content. Right. But starting maybe from the policy perspective, I present briefly kind of Finland's national journey towards circular economy. So Finland was actually, I believe, at least one of the first countries to develop a national roadmap towards circular economy, and that work was published in 2016. And then I think Sitra has been doing a marvelous job also launching the World Circular Economy Forum, which has been run throughout the different regions and different countries during the last years. 2020, the EU Circular Economy Action Plan was published. And then the next year, Finland prepared the kind of official strategic circular economy program. And why I'm mentioning this is that this national circular economy program is something that also started the Nordic circular design program. Because as part of this national policy and a national program, we really wanted to think about how to also engage businesses and companies in this transition and how to develop their capabilities to answer to these upcoming EU regulations, which had been kind of outlined in the previous EU Circular Economy Action Plan. So this is just summarizing the Finland's national circular design program. And in this program, all the companies who were interested in the topic could apply to be part of the program. We actually received nearly 100 applications from private companies. for the capacity building program, and then we were able to take with us 50 leading Finnish companies. And it was quite an extensive capacity building program covering many kinds of aspects of circular transition. It lasted for a whole year. I will show you in the next slides some of the details from the Nordic program, but essentially we had two key objectives for the companies. They were working on their strategic circular economy related targets, as well as some very concrete product level solution. So essentially thinking about how could their specific product comply with the EU Ecodesign regulation. And then after the Finland's national circular design program, we kind of scaled it up to the Nordic level. And with a similar concept, started this Nordic circular design or eco-design program. And here you can see some of the brands that are with us in the program. It is a cross-sectoral program, but we have some textile companies with us. For example, Helly Hansen from Norway, from the kind of sports sector. We have Acne Studios and Echo from footwear sector. And in the Nordic Circular Design Program, this is co-founded by Nordic Innovation, which is an organization under Nordic Council of Ministers. And whenever we do these kind of capacity building programs in different countries, we always work together with local partners. So, for example, in this program, we have organizing partners also from other Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and also Iceland. And looking at the content of the program, this is a little bit maybe complicated picture, but let me quickly walk you through it. So if we start from the top part of the picture, there you can see an executive track. So each company that participated in the program needed to assign their kind of executive management team members. And with them, we worked on those strategic objectives for the company. They were looking at how to really find those business opportunities and how to prepare at the company level. And with them also the following topics that you can see there were very like business focused in general, how to create circular customer value. So not only complying with the regulation, but also looking at the product design so that you can create maximum added value for your customers and therefore make also good business out of this circular transition. How to develop a circular value chain that is about collaboration, understanding your role and kind of what kind of maybe new functions or operations you might need to establish in your company, or what kind of new collaboration partners you might need. Either, for example, new suppliers for new innovative circular materials, or then even partnering with your customers in co-creating and co-innovating the new solutions. At the same time, we also worked with the R&D teams of these companies to really dive deep into these eco-design requirements and regulation at a product level. And there you can see topics like what are circular materials, What does the legislation say about chemicals? What are the directions and what are the new regulations coming? And how to use, for example, life cycle analysis to understand the environmental impacts of your products and how to reduce the environmental negative impacts with these circular solutions. And at the end, we were kind of planning the testing and prototyping and really aiming at creating such product concepts that can be then commercially launched or kind of further developed after the program. Okay. And yeah, I've covered the upper part and the down part, and then also in the middle there were some public content to boost interest and share the best practices of these front-runner companies with wider audiences. But according to the participant feedback, it was really important for them that we not only had designers and experts in the program, but we also had the business management, because then they were able to align internally within the company their plans, and also the designers were supported by the upper management because their strategic business targets were aligned, and they also saw the kind of future opportunity, not only for compliance, but creating customer value and kind of increasing your competitive advantage. Okay. Here's just one kind of textile-specific example of one of the topics covered during this 8-month-long capacity building program. We touched upon circular value chains, and this picture is actually also from Finland. It is when we started to create a vision for post-consumer textile recycling, fiber-to-fiber recycling for cotton. But now in the program, we go through the kind of fundamentals and also the current status of the kind of system that you operate in, and try to find those company-specific collaboration partners, and that is really where the innovation potential is. For example, as a textile brand, can you find innovative recycled fiber or fabric producers to work together? Or how can you, I guess now also there will be some regulations for repairability. Can you find some kind of innovative partnerships and kind of the service packages that you could offer to your customers? And how can you offer that as a brand together with your collaboration partners? And here's some testimonials from the companies that have been participating at the program. So as you can see, even in Nordics and in the EU, companies still need a lot of support for starting to build that circular business that is compliant with these new regulations. And I think I again maybe refer to this Bali. I think there's a lot similarly time for Korean companies also to start this journey. But before concluding, I think it might be nice for you to hear directly from the program participants that what have been the key takeaways for them of the program, if I manage to show you this short video. Interesting. Can we have some? Yeah.
circularity is a very challenging topic to approach in a company. So through the program, you're able to learn from the organizers as well as from other companies.
What has been very good is that both R&D and executive have been there together. So we speak now the same language and have the common understanding.
I say it gives you
Can we maybe have the volume up a little bit?
It gives you practical tools.
Joining the program was for us to understand, are we on the right track? Also share our knowledge and also get some insight from others to challenge ourselves.
It's been fantastic with the Nordic collaboration in this project. It's been working really, really smoothly, both between the partners and with the companies in the program. I'm very, very happy with the results, I have to say.
It's been so much fun, and it's been such a privilege both to see how the Nordic companies sort of join forces and work so well together, but also just us as partners seeing how we can create a shared common understanding and the collaboration that just sort of goes across borders.
It has definitely been very exciting to have the Nordic partners and Nordic companies joining us to really have new kinds of exchange.
For me, the most rewarding part was to see how all of the companies that participated went from ambitions to action.
And circular design can be one of, if not the fastest and most efficient way for companies to transition. And it's a huge business opportunity as well.
This has been a lovely journey with you guys, and I strongly recommend any company in the Nordics to be part of this program. It was an awakening moment for us to see how relevant, but also the perfect timing to be part of the circular change.
Because the more we are on this race, the better the planet will be. So let's make it together.
So thank you. Hopefully you were able to hear from the translation, the testimonials from the program participants, although the volume was a bit low. And I will also be here for the rest of the day, so if you're interested in discussing any of these topics or the program, so happy to have more detailed talks with you later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fontel. It was very clear and inspiring presentation, isn't it? It was great. Thank you so much. I would just like to remind about the QR code. If you have a minute to fill out the survey, you have QR code just next to the headsets. We would really appreciate to have your feedback. Also, we are also live stream on the main YouTube channel of the KNCPC for those who are joining us online. We're going to move on to our final presentation of the day. We'll hear from Mr. Jong-in Chae, team leader at Hyoseong TNC. And his talk is titled Circular Economy Practices in Korea's Textile Industry. Please join me in giving Mr. Chae a warm round of applause.
안녕하십니까.
Hello everyone, my name is Jong-in Chae from Hyoseong TNC New Business Team. So I know that I'm going to be the last presenter for today. Thank you for paying attention up till now. I will try to keep my presentation within 20 minutes so that you can enjoy the rest of the session. So first of all, this will be the contents of my presentation. But before that, let me give you one core message to help your understanding. The message that I would like to emphasize is the products developed by Hyoseong TNC and the products that we will be developing from Hyoseong TNC, along with that, other technologies and so on. And within that process, I think it's very important to protect our ecosystem. So a lot of institutes, a lot of companies, and globally all the stakeholders within this industry, I think it's very important for all of us to collaborate together under this mission. It's not a goal that can be achieved just by us. So let's make sure that we can all collaborate with each other. We are looking for our partner companies to work on this mission. That was our core message that I wanted to emphasize. So let me move on to my contents. So first of all, I'll be introducing about my company, Hyoseong TNC, and then give some time to recognize the challenge and move on to the innovative solution developed by Hyoseong TNC and how they can be applied or acted in practice. And lastly, the vision for the future, including how we can adopt a full circular textile industry. So Hyoseong was established back in 1966. So Hyoseong TNC, actually, it spinned off back in 2018. And we have divisions for international trading and division for textile. So the revenue is approximately 7 trillion Korean won. I'll go into details later on. So in Hyoseong TNC, we have textile sector and trading sector, as mentioned earlier. So when it comes to textile, we have spandex, nylon, polyester, and fabric. So we are leading the industry. So we also have the fabric and dyeing as well. And under trading sector, we have metal, including the steel and also chemical. So we are trading these products under the trading sector. So the contents from now on is something that you all know about, so I'll try to keep it brief. So the waste, textile waste, most of them are being landfilled or incinerated. So during the period from 2022 to 2024, they are only increasing, never decreasing. So in order to move on to circular economy, I think it's very important to make actions for these industries that have a lot of potential. So the amount of CO2 being generated and a lot of costs being incurred, they're a very big number. Just wanted to let you know about it. And from now on, I'll be talking about the past history of developing our own products and technology. So back in 2017 or 2018, 2007 and 2008, we started our project to utilize fishing nets and turn them into textiles. So we came up with textiles but had some technological issues and environmental issues. But above all, since we were the leader in the industry, we did not have any ecosystem. How were we supposed to collect the discarded fishing net? How are we going to distribute them? How are we going to market them? What are going to be the natures of those products? How can we utilize those products? We did not have any ecosystem back then, so that is why we had quite a lot of hurdles when it comes to commercializing them. I'm going to talk about the details later on, but it took a very long time for us to fully utilize everything. And we also moved on to mechanical recycling for PET. And we continued with our own research and development, but we also wanted to recycle regen nylon. So we launched them, and starting from 2019, we wanted to recycle regen spandex. And for 2022 and 2021 and 2022, we came back to the project of collecting the discarded fishing nets and try to come up with new textiles. And starting from last year, 2024, with nylon and polyester, we wanted to recycle all those textiles for scraps, CR, and MR. So when it comes to the discarded fishing nets, I'll try to go into a little more detail. So you can see that a turtle has been trapped in fishing nets, struggling, having pain. So when it comes to fishing nets, they were mostly made of PE, PP, nylon. So it was not only net, but also a lot of fishing devices. They were being discarded or thrown away to the ocean, creating quite a lot of environmental problems. So even though we had to collect them at site, we did not know how to treat them. So that is why we mostly ended up neglecting them or incinerating them. That is why we had to sort them so that we can utilize them as resources. So based on collaboration with a lot of partner companies, we wanted to make sure to use them as new resources. We went through recycling and then created monomog. We regenerated them. And then we came up with a product almost to the same quality, equivalent as chemical petroleums. So when we were creating like 300 tons per month, so we found out that we could reduce approximately 1,600 tons of CO2 per month. So next I would like to talk about polyester. Well, up till now, the case is that we collect abandoned PET bottles, convert them into chips, and then go through spinning process, and then come up with products. So we wanted to collect all those abandoned PET bottles, go through sorting process, grinding, and so on. And with the help from our partnership companies, we try to come up with drying them, melting them, chipping them, spinning them, and come up with products. So next will be about spandex. So we wanted to recycle all the waste that were being created from the process, and we were able to reduce the amount of the CO2 by as much as 66%. And for some products, for bio-based ones, we try to come up with new products. And again, we were able to reduce CO2 by 23%, and the water usage was reduced. We wanted to create quite a lot of technologies for water-saving effects. And the specifications and the examples is what I'll be talking about from now on. So regarding the products that I've been talking up till now, from fiber to fabric, moving on to textile, well, I don't think we were sufficient or complete. So in order to promote circular economy, we had to promote textile to textile. So polyester and nylon were the two parts that we wanted to utilize. So we were looking for a lot of partner companies, and we're trying a lot of different things. So feedstock, how we can utilize them, what kind of market effects we can achieve, and what kind of technological benefits we can get. Only when we review all those different aspects, we can fully commercialize our products. So we came up with different new products. And we also validated ourselves that we could commercialize or market them. So when it comes to polyester, well, we can recycle based on the textiles, but with the products of our partner companies, we come up with pilot products and then come up with new spinnings and yarns. We are trying a lot of new things even for now, and for some products, we came up with the products with the brand of Mungsenyu. We also did some exhibition last year to introduce them to new customers. And we also had a new brand, Pleats Mama, where we came up with a lot of products such as hat, shoulder bag, and poodle bags. So those nylon materials were turned into fully commercialized products. And we also came up with a lot of apparels as well. So you can see the specifications, for example, nylon 4034, nylon 4034, nylon 21. So they're not mass-produced yet. However, we have moved on to full commercialization. And with a lot of partnership, we are constantly putting further efforts so that we can further commercialize them. So let me talk about our future plan based on this roadmap. So starting from last year, 2024, we are going to move on one by one. So nylon 100% based on fabric waste. Well, we developed a technology so that we can fully utilize those wastes. We are trying new things on and on. And we are going to look for other partnership companies so that we can fully utilize them. So span or coated nylon or blended nylon can all be regenerated, so that in the future we can go all the way to mass production. That is our goal. When it comes to polyester, for some products, not only mechanical recycling, but also we want to utilize all those different resources so that we can complete circulated recycling. So we are going to move on based on this roadmap. So the message for this slide is that as Co-40 has mentioned earlier, we want to move on or promote circular economy further. So polyester, taking a very big proportion, should be completed with textile to textile or fabric to fabric recycling. So not only development companies, but also research centers should be given support. So only when we come up with a consortium, I think we can fully create an ecosystem. So sorting for the initial resources, pre-treatment, and chemical utilization, recycling. Well, we want to make sure that all those 31 companies, institutes will be involved, and our goal is to make a launch very soon. So my message here is that the recycled technologies have mostly been developed, but that is not going to be enough to do something meaningful sufficiently. So in order to promote circularity, we need to come up with detailed processes. For example, We need to be able to come up with sorting or post-treatment, pre-treatment for the fabrics and yarns so that spandex can be divided into all different materials and later on be recycled. So all the different companies will be collaborating together to come up with the relevant technologies. And when they come up with the textiles, they want to come up with different usages. So this is something that we are working on at this moment. So once everything is completed, such ecosystem should be applied not only in Korea, but also, I believe, can be adopted to overseas as well, especially for the ones where our partnership companies are located. So we are not going to stop. We are going to move on. So those are going to be our future plans, and we will make sure to create such an ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr.
네, 발표 감사합니다. 굉장히 정보도 많고 저희가
A very practical look into how circular economy ideas are being applied within the Korean textile sector. So thank you, Mr. Che from Hyeosung TNC. Once again, maybe we can. Just a quick reminder again about the QR code. If you have a little minute to do the feedback survey, it really matters to us. You have the QR code just next to the headset at the end of the room. And for those joining us online, the session is live streamed on the main YouTube channel of the KNCPC. I'm going to do it until the end of the session, I promise. All right, this is now we're moving to the panel discussion opening. As I presented myself earlier, maybe for those who joined meanwhile, I am Sandra Menyekang, Creative Director of SMK Dancewear, a brand that I created in Seoul over 10 years ago to explore how movement, comfort, and eco-conscious design can come together. In my work, I've been collaborating with both European and Korean textiles innovators, everything from recycled material, especially from Hyeosung TNC actually, and the natural performances fiber. So it's a real honor to me. I'm really happy to guide this panel discussion today. We just heard 4 great presentations, and now we're going to bring our speaker to a conversation together. So just before we begin, we only have about 30 minutes, so we'll need to keep a good pace. So each speaker will have up to 2 minutes per question around. So let's try to keep on time. We'll start with a few questions we've prepared in advance, and then we'll move on to a few questions from the audience as well. I'm gonna reintroduce our speaker first, time we set up the stage. So we have today Mr. Mauro Scalia, Director of Sustainable Businesses at Euratex, with expertise in the EU-wide policy and digital product passport. I think you can take your seats. Yeah, I think it's pretty much almost ready. We have Mrs. Paola Fontel, CEO of Ethica Ltd in Finland, focused on circular economy strategy and Nordic best practice. Thank you. We have Mr. Jae-hoon Jung, Senior Advisor at the Korea Federation of Textile Industries, who acts as a key link between government and manufacturer. Thank you very much. And Mr. Jong-hin Che, Team Leader at Hyeosung TNC, directly involved in the development of sustainable fiber innovations. All right. Maybe if everybody is ready, we can start our panel discussion. Yeah? All right. So I'm going to start with the first question to Mrs. Paola Fontel. Mrs. Fontel, can you introduce a practical example from the Nordic Ecodesign program that could inspire stakeholders in Korea and beyond?
Okay, thank you for the question. Of course, if you ask me, I would think that kind of a whole program would be very much applicable also to Korea, because from a business perspective, the issues and challenges and opportunities are quite similar regardless of the region, although of course we have regional differences as well. So definitely I would hope to see a lot of collaboration and exchange of experiences at this level as well. But I think if we then move on to company level and what the companies have been developing during the program, most of those are quite business confidential, because the businesses have been developing their new product concepts to be launched sometimes later in the future. But quite many of them were focused on, for example, closing the material loops and building their own take-back systems for their products and textile products back from the consumers, and how to utilize that for deepening the customer relationship, and how to offer something meaningful for their customers. So that sort of concepts were quite popular and common among the companies who were working in the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your insights. That was very interesting. Mr. Jong, based on your experience, what are the biggest challenges for Korean companies preparing for the new EU sustainability rules? Get it? Okay.
네.
Yes, some companies are preparing to respond to the new EU sustainability rules. Well, during my presentation, maybe I was being too extreme. Some companies are making rapid preparations. I think Hyo-sung talked about it as well, but when it comes to an ecosystem, just because one side is created, it does not mean that it's complete. That's how the structure is when it comes to an ecosystem. So if products, technologies are being developed, we need to also think about policies for collection, sorting, the administrative basis, and also we also need an infrastructure. However, some parts are lacking. So I don't think I can explain one by one for each of the companies, but not only Hyo-sung, but also some companies are making preparation to respond to eco-friendliness or ENC. They are giving a lot of thoughts. However, we need to put more effort in creating the overall ecosystem, because when it comes to an ecosystem, it's all about collaboration. That part is lagging the most.
Thank you very much. Maybe Mr. Che would like to add something about that topic. Can we pass the mic to Mr. Che, please? Thank you.
Yes, let me talk from the perspective of the industry, a private company. So when an ecosystem is already created, it will be easy for a company to enter into that ecosystem. But to go into details, when it's already there, it means that the relevant competitiveness, which means profitability for private companies, is already proven. However, for private companies, if it's something that they're trying new for the first time, it's not going to be easy for them to be validated with their profitability. So the managers and for the producers like us, those companies, we will have to enter even though we know that such ecosystem is not created yet. So that will be working as a barrier or hurdle for us. So the government level or an overall regulation or support must be there. Only then we will be able to join and move on. So again, when it comes to an ecosystem, my message is that the government's regulation or the support should all be there. Only then we will be able to create an ecosystem, and then a lot of private companies will be able to join in that ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Che, you can keep the mic because the next question is for you. Hyoseong TNC is a leader in textile innovation. What should policymakers and business leaders prioritize in the next 2-3 years to accelerate the shift towards circularity in textiles?
굉장히 어려운.
That's a very difficult question.
Take your time.
So again, as I mentioned earlier, in order to create an ecosystem, that will need a lot of support or assistance. And when it comes to that support, we need to come up with a motivation so that people can use those created products and relevant policies. And in that sense, I would like to emphasize that EU's Ecodesign or DPP, Digital Product Passport, if it's being promoted more fast and more with a lot of clarity, then that's going to give us quite a lot of motivation to move on and also to create a required ecosystem. However, it seems that we're not fast enough. And that is why probably a lot of companies in the industry are reluctant rather than being decisive.
Thank you very much for your answer. I will pass now to Mr. Scalia. Mr. Scalia, you mentioned 16 legislations directly impacting textiles that are now in the making in the EU. How is the European industry responding to that?
Well, the industry is concerned because 16 legislation brings a lot of changes. And in difficult times, economically, you're not sure how these changes impact on your business. Also, I fully agree with Mr. Che, what he said. Legislation can, and there is almost sometimes a balance that you need to find between going fast, but doing the right choices. So there is a lot of curiosity, for instance, on the digital product passport. How much it's going to cost to an SME? This is one of the major questions. What are the benefits that it will bring to me? So these are the questions we want to solve. I would say the good thing of having so much legislation happening is that it can help you in making the right choices because full pictures. For instance, if you want to devise recycled material use, and at the same time you work on digital product passport, you can see how you can exchange data on. So in essence, the industry is overall committed in supporting the transition. Legislation, if properly done with the right objectives and concrete technical details, can help us. And I think it's also an opportunity for our industry to provide the answer to the question that you ask, which takes a lot of time to find the answers. But it's not a legislation which is down. You need 2 years, just do it. It's an industry based on the lessons learned, for instance, on the project, on recycling of spandex, as we heard, or many others. We can learn what would need to be fixed advices to the policymakers. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was very good. Thank you very much. Well, I may ask you one more, then follow up on the previous question. How is the legislation going to impact on the Korean and global value chain then?
So I think it's not a coincidence that we hear a lot about DPP here in these 2 days, because that's probably one of the major impact. So I repeat what I mentioned before, to make a digital product passport, every brand needs data from the supply chain. So that's certainly, I guess, impact number one. We saw before how we import 1 billion euro worth textile products from Korea. Some of that ends up in garments. We will have to get data also from Korea in these regards. We heard yesterday how interests are on DPP also from other world regions, China, Japan, US maybe. Is this DPP, which is going to be the first legally introduced in Europe, going to give ideas or maybe impact, maybe the technical standard we use, maybe the solution we find? So this is certainly something will have an impact in at least part of the value chain in Korea. Second point, if there will be a request for recycled content, that's also an impact on the investments to be made on recycled material, whether it's in Korea, Vietnam, or especially in Europe, even from Korean companies. Maybe third point, we also talk about life cycle assessment. I repeat, we believe we need one harmonized methodology to measure the sustainability of products and the footprint. So that is quite advanced in Europe because we've been working for many, many years. It's still not final and is open to improvement. For instance, you mentioned microplastic before. That's also something that will be considered in the next review of the product environmental footprint methodology. So it's very likely that this methodology, because we will be using legislation, might also be considered in other legislation which comes afterwards.
Thank you very much. We're going to now move through the generic question for all our speakers, so you're all invited to answer to this question. If we want the textile industry to truly become more sustainable, what do you think is the one condition or shift that still needs to happen either in policy, supply chains, mindset, or in collaboration? Maybe we can start, maybe Mr. Scalia, you have the mic.
I think that everybody will play his part in this transition without necessarily one part of the value chain ask more to the other one. Consumer starting from consumer, shall be interested in sustainability and ready to pay €1 more, for instance, for a product if it's more sustainable. Evidence does not show that. Now the cheapest prices, the cheapest product are the ones which sell the best, not the most sustainable one. So that is what's changed. Brands and retailers need to create a demand for the manufacturing part of the value chain because you can make all sorts of investments, but if no one wants to buy it, it doesn't succeed. And also the manufacturer needs to take chances, to make risks, to provide solutions for the brands and also for the market, for the authorities through green public procurement. So in essence, everyone from consumer to authorities to brands to manufacturers have to play a part. That's perhaps one consideration from my side.
Thank you very much. You can pass the mic maybe to Mr. Che or Mr. Jong.
Sorry.
So when he was talking, I've been giving some thoughts myself. So rather than trying to think it as something optional, well, Korean textile industry is, as I mentioned earlier, in overall, we focus more on export to secure the finance and try to utilize that finance on developing technologies and again try to export that product. So once again, it's not good if we do it. It's not something optional, it's something mandatory for our survival. It's not a matter of choosing. So in the year probably like 2027 or 2028, if Europe gets started with its DPP, the impact on Korea is never going to be small. We're going to have to transform everything, including the systems, our mindset, marketing, recollection. Everything will have to go through a very big change. So it's really closely related to trade barriers and so on. So it's not something like nice to have, it's something we must have. So during the COVID-19, back then, we were all isolated. We had to keep our social distances. So we had to go through a lot of unexpected like home trainings at home. We had a lot of transformation on our lifestyle. We had digital meetings. And even though we did not want to, once we tried it, we became familiar with such lifestyle to some extent. And everyone gradually become adapted to such changes. So just like that, our changes in our mindset and circular economy leading to the recyclings of textiles, impacting the economy, operating everything based on that, well, it's going to require quite a lot of changes, but the regulations or changes in policy that's going to speed it up. I think we need that something which is going to speed that up, and I believe that's something that we're all curious about. Is that going to happen like 10 years later, 20 years later, or 1 year later very suddenly? And if we do not adapt ourselves, we're going to lag behind. Is that going to be the case? So the people who are taking the lead, who want to be proactive, the companies, universities, research centers, all the institutes who are being proactive will wish such change to happen faster. And well, for me, I personally wish that circular economy and recycling is something good. I want that change to happen faster. And as Director Scalia has mentioned, we should change our mindset so that it's going to be a mandatory thing, not an optional thing. That's what I wish for personally.
Thank you very much. And we'll hear now about Mrs. Paula Fontel on that question.
If I think about the textile sector and sustainability overall, we heard in today's presentations something about the environmental impact of the industry. And to tackle those issues, I really welcome the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products regulation, because up to 80% of products' environmental impact is determined in the design phase. And that is why I believe that this ESPR will be very fundamental, because in Europe we have been working on sustainability of the textile sector and other sectors for centuries already, and still we have those very big environmental problems. So I'm really hopeful that this initiative will help solve a lot of the environmental challenges that the sector has. But of course, I guess it's a bit of the same with the social sustainability. There are still some problems in the value chain, so that should not be a forgotten
when we talk about circular economy, it needs to be also socially sustainable. And thinking about the different kind of actors in this future circular system, or who are needed in this transition, I really believe that the brands and producers who are designing the end products have a very crucial role, because we need to have the demand for all these more sustainable alternatives, textiles and fibers, and what are being developed at the moment. But of course, the legislation will also drive the demand, I believe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all our speakers for taking time to share their thoughts. We will now pass the mic into the audience. Does anyone have a question? Yes, over there. Maybe we can pass the mic. Thank you. Oh, is it working?
My name is Sangmin Song. I'm with the Korean news outlet called News Tree. I have a question for Mr. Scalia. Thank you for your talk today, by the way. You mentioned about the importance of harmonizing data with all the countries and all the stakeholders for the digital product passport. I was just wondering, since there are a lot of stakeholders for all different countries, all agencies and the customs people, do you actually see this happening until 2028?
Maybe we can give the mic to Mr. Scalia for answer. Yeah. Is it working?
Yes, okay. So time-wise, it was also something that I think was mentioned in one of the previous interventions. The plan is to finish the legal text by 2026, roughly. Then there will be 18 months for the business, for the supply chain to adapt. So by the time that legislation takes the final decision, until the time the companies have to comply, there will be at least 18 months. Now we expect this to be even more, because you always have some technical times between the decision being taken and the legal text to be published in official journals. So at least I think it's going to be kind of 2 years. Plus, if need be, we might ask even additional time. Then there are two aspects to consider: the IT part and the content. So when it comes to the IT infrastructure, the work should be finished this year. So we should know which standard will be used to communicate what in the digital product passport, and that is going on. When it comes to the supply chain to be ready to use the contents, that is a difficult part. What we think is that probably the digital product passport will start with the minimum amount of information. That's actually what we ask the European Commission. Say, we need to make it work. You cannot ask any company to provide thousands of data on thousands of chemicals for thousands of products made every week. It's not going to work out. So let's start baby step, and let's see how it works. For instance, the durability of the product, or some specific chemicals which are already regulated. Therefore, conclusion, if we have at least 2 years and we have an IT infrastructure that is already available, and we start with some small contents, in principle, it could be possible. I have used if. So in theory, I think it's possible, and it's a matter from the policymaker to decide what is the level of ambition, which doesn't mean I want to go low on ambition, but I want to be realistic. And that's my last consideration. The wind of change in Brussels when it comes to legislation. The time of the very ambitious legislation that has to be changed afterwards, I think it's finished. Because they did in the past years, they made ambitious legislation due diligence. When you get to the data from the supplier of your supplier of your supplier, and then they change 6 months later. They call it omnibus. So now the attention on how actually we're going to make it for real is higher. And this is give us some confidence that we're going to try to make it work in 2 years' time. I hope that answer.
Thank you very much. Maybe we have time for just one last question from the audience, with a very short answer under 2 minutes from the speaker, please. Is there one last question? No? All right. If there is no more question, then we are wrapping up today's session. Maybe, I don't know if the official photographer is here. Maybe it's a nice time to do the group photo on stage. Yes? So I'm going to move on with you. And then we'll move on to the conclusion of the session. Should we stand? Or
Yeah, stand.
Standing is better?
Yeah, standing is better. We'll turn off the projectors.
Can we turn off the projector?
You guys move a little bit to the...
Can we turn off the projector, please?
전체적으로 조금 이쪽. Okay, perfect.
Please stay with us. We have a few words for the conclusion after. Please. Yes.
Right hand.
Any hands you like. Right, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the session. A big thank you to our 4 speakers for sharing their time and their insights today. Thank you to you all also for joining us, listening and asking great questions. Before we wrap up, just a few quick notes. If you have a minute, once again, to fill in our feedback survey. At the end of the room, you have a QR code that you can scan and give your opinion. It really matters to us. For those who pre-registered the networking dinner, you're warmly invited to join us downstairs on the 4th floor. However, for those who didn't register yet, you can still register on the 1st floor and then join us on the 4th floor. Feel free to follow KITECH on YouTube, EU-Korea Green Partnership on LinkedIn or Instagram, or both, so we can stay connected together. I'm Sandra Menyekang, CEO of SMK Dancewear. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining, and I wish you a good dinner or a safe trip home. Right?